My husband, Harry, basically set me up to look like the cheater, then showed up at my birthday party with his pregnant girlfriend. So yeah, I blew the whistle on his affair and took everything. It all started when I was 28, working as a personal assistant and still reeling from my dad's death. Losing him left this huge, empty hole in my life. It was brutal. You know that feeling, right? Total devastation. Then bam, Harry walks in, this older guy, all charm and sweet talk, just what I needed to feel better, I guess. It was one of those cheesy meet-cutes, and maybe that's why I fell so hard. He was everything I thought I wanted, safe, reliable, and so affectionate. We went on these amazing dates, and he was such a gentleman. My mom adored him from day one. His parents, that was a little tougher at first, different backgrounds and all. But they came around eventually. His sister Evelyn, though, we clicked instantly. We're super close. We shop, grab lunch all the time. She's like the sister I always wished I had. We talk about everything. Honestly, I'm so grateful she's in my life, even if it's because of Harry. We were still all lovey-dovey when he popped the question totally out of the blue. He threw this surprise engagement party, invited everyone we knew. I didn't even hesitate. I said yes. It's so clear in my mind, everyone's smiling faces, all saying Harry and I were perfect together. And for a while, I totally bought it. Our wedding was beautiful, in Mexico for our honeymoon. Amazing. But the minute we got back home, things went south fast. Moving into his place was a nightmare. He was super picky, wouldn't let me touch his living room or bedroom, not even a little. I tried to be reasonable, saying I'd slowly add my stuff, let him get used to it. But then he flipped out over my closet. He actually said no one needs that many clothes. I'm not some fashion blogger or anything, but like, every woman has clothes she loves, right? He kept pushing me to get rid of most of them because he didn't want my stuff taking up half his closet space. I understood where he was coming from. I didn't want him to feel crowded in his own apartment. So I ended up using the guest room as my closet instead of sharing our bedroom. Then, get this, he had a problem with my fridge magnets. Growing up, I always dreamed of traveling the world. As soon as I started working, I saved up and went everywhere I could. I started collecting fridge magnets from each trip, little souvenirs I loved showing off. Harry always thought those magnets were tacky and looked really cheap. He absolutely refused to put any of mine on the fridge. We seriously argued about it a bunch of times. Finally, he basically said he didn't want to start our marriage off with a fight, so I gave in, which was hard. The first couple of years, I spent a lot of time with my family and friends. Harry was more of a homebody, especially since he worked so much and was always wiped out. I liked being social and going out with my friends, so it wasn't a big deal for me to go do things on my own. Every once in a while, Harry would suggest I stay in, but we still had date nights twice a week, which I mostly loved. I liked spending time with him, but I also enjoyed hanging out with other people. He had his own stuff too, like Sundays with his golf buddies, and I never gave him any grief about it. But in our third year, I started to see a change in Harry. When we got married, we were totally on the same page about not having kids. Then Harry started saying he wanted to be a dad and that he'd love to have a baby with me. It totally threw me for a loop, and I reminded him that we agreed not to have kids. But Harry just brushed it off, saying he wanted to see me pregnant. His words made me feel really uncomfortable. Sometimes he'd refuse to use a condom, which totally freaked me out. It felt like he was trying to trap me into having a baby. I talked to him a bunch, trying to understand why he'd suddenly want kids. Before, he'd always said he liked that we didn't have the extra responsibility of raising children. He swore that once I was pregnant and could quit my job, everything would be perfect. The thought of losing my job terrified me. I know some people won't agree with this, but I went to my doctor and started taking the pill. Luckily, it worked and I never got pregnant. But things got really weird with Harry after that. He started acting all crazy, questioning where I was going and who I was with. If I wanted to hang out with my friends, he'd start criticizing my clothes. This was a total shock because I always dressed pretty modestly. He'd tell me I needed to cover up more, even if I was just wearing a normal shirt and jacket. He said he was worried about what other guys would think. At first, I just ignored it, but he got more and more pushy, even demanding I change before going out. It made me super uncomfortable and started making me question our relationship. Then a few weeks later, some of my favorite clothes were gone. I thought I was losing my mind. I searched the whole house for them, so I asked Harry about it and he swore he had no clue. But then, rummaging around in the garage, I found my stuff stuffed in an old shoebox. I was so mad, I went straight to him. At first, he still denied knowing anything. But I was like, look, it was just the two of us at home, you can't get away with this. After a huge fight, he finally admitted he'd hidden my clothes. Can you believe it? He said he didn't want me wearing them when I went out with my friends. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was totally blown away and furious. He tried to justify it, saying he was just trying to protect my reputation, that guys think badly of women who dress like that. I totally lost it. I screamed at him that he'd lost his mind, that he had no right to control what I wore. I mean, we'd been married 3 years, I'd never given him a reason to doubt me, so why the heck did he care what other guys thought? I told him straight up that no sane person would act that controlling in a relationship. He finally apologized. It was the first weird thing he'd ever done, so I figured maybe he was going through some kind of phase. I let it slide. But things only got worse. Then I started noticing messages from my friends and family, poof, just gone from my phone. It was so weird. Okay, so I was trying to get a hold of my mom, plan a visit, but there was just nothing. No record of us talking at all. A few days later, I was totally freaked out. First, I figured maybe it was my phone acting up, so I updated the whole thing, hoping that would fix it. Then a friend called, wanted me to come to a small get-together at her place. Said she'd text me the invite, but nothing ever showed up. She called back later, wondering why I hadn't RSVP'd, and I told her I never even got her message. It wasn't until I actually went to her party that weekend that she showed me she had sent it. It was super weird and unsettling. I started thinking someone had hacked my phone, so I bought a new one. I'm a sentimental sap, I couldn't bring myself to get rid of the old one, thinking maybe I could fix it somehow. The whole time this was happening, I was telling my husband, Harry, about it, and he was just as baffled as I was. But here's the kicker: I forgot to tell him I got a new phone. That night I woke up parched, went to get some water, and walked into the living room. And there he was, kneeling on the couch, holding both my phones. My eyes took a minute to focus, but I saw him scrolling through my old one. I couldn't help it, I just blurted out, "What the hell are you doing?" He practically leaped. He seemed totally shocked that I was there, and then he started going on and on about how I was obviously cheating. Because, I'd gotten a new phone without telling him. He kept going, ranting about how he shouldn't have trusted me, and I was just standing there, totally floored, trying to figure out what was happening. Later that night, I calmly pointed out that he knew my old phone was messed up and that the new one was still off, so he could have just, waited. The next day, I asked again what he was doing with both my phones in the middle of the night, and he said he was just checking if something was wrong with them. I grabbed my phone back and saw he opened my chats on the old one. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized Harry had been deleting my messages, which was why I wasn't getting invites from anyone. He kept saying he couldn't sleep and was just out watching TV. Then he found my new phone on my nightstand and started snooping around in it. He claimed he was also looking for any bugs on my old phone that I might have missed. I just stared at him, totally blank, and asked him straight up, "Were you deleting my texts?" When I told him that, Harry blew up. He swore it was crazy even to suggest such a thing, said he'd never do anything like that. But I still had this awful feeling in my gut, I told him plain as day. I'd seen him reading my texts in the middle of the night, couldn't deny that. I just couldn't figure out why he'd do it. I explained that because he was deleting them, I couldn't get together with my friends and family. It felt like such a huge betrayal, a sneaky way to cut me off from everyone I cared about. I couldn't even look at him. Something felt seriously off, and I just went with my gut. I told him he'd gone too far, that I needed some space. I started packing a bag, figuring I'd stay with my mom for a while. He practically begged me not to go, finally admitting he'd been deleting my messages so he could spend more time with me. I couldn't believe it. How could he think that was okay? Especially after all the time we'd already spent together. When I told my mom, she thought it was totally bizarre. But she also said I was lucky to have someone who loved me that much, even if he was going about it all wrong. Even though she said what she did, I couldn't shake this feeling of being stabbed in the back, plus I was just plain uneasy. My husband wouldn't stop blowing up my phone calls, texts, the whole deal. His messages were all over the place, going from begging my forgiveness to saying I somehow made him think I was cheating. So I just shut my phone off for a few days. I tried to keep busy, helped my mom out around the house, I don't know why, but I had a really bad feeling about Harry. I was clueless about what to do. It was like I was pretending not to know the truth, even to myself. Luckily, Evelyn came over to help me feel better. She was as shocked as I was when I told her what her brother had done. Now I know what you might think, that she'd automatically side with her brother because, family. But Evelyn is totally a girls stick together kind of person. She told me that what I was going through was totally normal, because no husband should be waking up in the middle of the night to check his wife's phone and then react like Harry did, especially since I never gave him a reason to be suspicious. She knew something was off and offered to talk to him about it. Talking to her lifted my spirits. I really hoped she could get Harry to see reason. I turned my phone back on after talking to Evelyn because I felt a little better. But Harry just bombarded me with angry texts. He seemed like a different person. Some of the messages were even threatening, saying he'd divorce me and leave me with nothing, just like my dad did. This was so unlike him, I was completely baffled. I couldn't figure out what I'd done to tick him off so badly. No new messages that day, so I figured he'd realized he'd messed up and felt bad about it. I figured he'd call, and we'd sort it out. But then 2 days later, Evelyn called, saying she had something to tell me and it wasn't good news. When she got here, she was furious. She showed me pictures on her phone, pictures she'd taken outside Harry's house. There was this young blonde woman walking right into our house. It didn't click until Evelyn said it. Harry was cheating on me. The air just whooshed out of my lungs. I just nodded dumbly while Evelyn told me she'd seen this girl going in and out of Harry's place for 2 days, and she'd suspected something was up with her brother. My whole body was shaking, and I felt sick to my stomach. Evelyn tried to hug me, but I pushed her away and ran to the bathroom. Everything was spinning, and I had this weird, dull headache. I kept telling myself it couldn't be true, there had to be some other explanation. When I came out, Evelyn looked terrified. My mom, Evelyn had already told her everything, was staring at me, absolutely livid. I tried to play it off, saying maybe it was a housekeeper or a coworker of Harry's. I tried and tried to make them understand why this girl was meeting my husband while we were in a huge fight, but Evelyn and Mom just looked at me like I was some kind of sad case, and it made my stomach churn. Mom gently sat me down, but I just kept my eyes glued to the floor. Evelyn said she wanted to believe her brother wasn't being unfaithful, but the truth was staring us in the face. Then she asked if Harry had gotten in touch with me, and I shook my head. She didn't say anything, and then I just lost it, started bawling. You can't imagine the sheer devastation when you realize your marriage is over. I'll tell you, Evelyn and Mom just sat there with me on the floor, trying to comfort me the best they could. When I started to calm down a bit, Mom apologized for thinking my loser husband could ever change and offered to help me find a divorce lawyer. Evelyn chimed in and said she'd do some digging on this other woman, which might help with the divorce. All I could do was nod. All I wanted was to sleep. So they let me go to bed and pretend it was all a bad dream. But like everyone else who's been cheated on, I woke up with this awful ache in my chest, and it slowly sunk in that the man I loved had cheated on me. Evelyn had texted me pictures of the woman going into our house, and I zoomed in as close as I could to see how young she looked. I was floored. Instead of actually talking things out, my jerk of a husband just went and got involved with someone else. It made my blood boil. He seriously thought he could just do whatever he pleased and I'd just come running back. He had another thing coming. Divorce was happening and I was going to take everything he had. I talked to my mom and we started looking up good divorce lawyers around here so we could set up some meetings. Evelyn called me all the time to see how I was doing. When I finally got a lawyer, the first thing he said was that we needed a private investigator to dig up as much dirt as possible so I could get the best outcome in the divorce. It cost a fortune, but I didn't care. All I wanted was for Harry to learn his lesson and never pull this crap on me again. During all of this, Harry only texted me twice, both times asking if I was going to apologize to him. Those texts just made me furious. I had so much I wanted to say, but I knew it would tip him off about the divorce. I wanted to see his face when I served him the papers. Harry never bothered to come see my mom because he was so sure he was right about the whole phone situation. So my lawyer filled me in the private investigator was digging up some serious dirt, and it looked like Harry and this girl were really serious. They were together every single day, It wasn't just some one-night stand. It seemed like a full-blown affair that had been going on for a while. Evelyn, she's a real go-getter, spent hours online and found out the girl's name Georgina. And get this, she was only 23. But the worst part? This girl had a criminal record, a warrant out for her arrest in another state for car theft when she was younger, working for some gang. Can you believe it? My husband was messing around with a possible criminal. It just broke my heart. Turns out Georgina was stripping too, so she definitely wasn't being upfront about her past. Evelyn and I talked it over, and we both knew we had a huge problem on our hands. Harry needed to know the truth, but we had to be smart about it. We decided to meet with his parents secretly without him knowing. I told them everything, the whole mess. They were completely shocked. They had no clue things were so bad between Harry and me. They said Harry had been lying to them for weeks, telling them everything was fine at home. Evelyn showed them pictures of Georgina and all the other stuff the pie had found. They were furious, absolutely livid that their son would do something so awful. My heart leaped when Harry's mom pulled me aside. She and her husband were totally on my side. They couldn't believe their son was messing around with a stripper who had a criminal record. We cooked up a plan to catch him in the act, so his folks could step in, and I could finally serve him the divorce papers. My birthday was just around the corner, so his parents jumped into action and called Harry immediately. They told him to throw me a huge party, for his wife, so we could all celebrate together. Harry tried to weasel out of it, casually mentioning I probably wouldn't want a big bash, hoping his folks wouldn't suspect a thing about our marriage. But his dad wasn't backing down. He said he'd already spoken to me, and I supposedly thought it was a fantastic idea. Harry was stunned his dad suggested this, but eventually agreed to plan a party for me like his parents wanted. Through all of this, he never said I wasn't even living with him anymore or that he was seeing someone else. Later, Harry tried to get a hold of me. I didn't answer his calls at first, so he left me a bunch. Then he texted, saying he'd love to throw me a birthday party and hoping I'd just forget the past for the sake of his parents. I acted like this was news to me, replying how sweet it was of him and that I'd absolutely come. My birthday was the day I was ready to finally end things. I had the divorce papers, plus photos from the private investigator ready to go just in case Harry tried to deny everything. When Mom and I got to his place, he didn't even give me a hug. Just this, fake smile. We walked inside and it was awful. He hadn't done a thing to get ready for my party. It looked like some messy college apartment with these sad, gray balloons just thrown around the living room, and the whole place was filthy. I went into the kitchen and there was a mountain of dirty dishes. Harry got us takeout pizza for dinner, which almost made me laugh when his parents showed up. He helped them get settled. We all just acted like nothing was wrong, waiting for the right time to confront him. When Evelyn got there, she had presents for me and we all sat down to eat, making small talk. We cut the birthday cake and everyone wished me a happy 36th. Then the doorbell rang and Harry bolted to answer it. He came back in with Georgina, holding her hand. She was wearing this, super revealing, sparkly dress and heels. Harry completely ignored me and went straight to his parents, introducing Georgina and saying he'd been wanting to say something for a while and thought this was the perfect moment. Then he started yelling, saying nobody knew, but he was miserable in our marriage because I was mean to him and never cared about his feelings. Okay, here's how I treated him. I'd gaslight him, mess with him, and honestly, I was a terrible wife. Then he dropped the bomb. He said he found out I'd been cheating on him. Apparently, he caught me with another phone, and when he called me out, I just left. He really milked it for drama, then said if it wasn't for Georgina, he wouldn't have made it through the end of our marriage. He met her 6 months ago, and things just happened. He said he realized how badly I'd treated him because of her. He said after I left, he and Georgina started hanging out a lot more, and get this, she's 2 months pregnant. I couldn't believe it. This was all news to me. I glanced at Evelyn, and her jaw was on the floor. Harry went on to say I failed as a woman because I wasn't a good wife, but lucky him, he found Georgina and he hoped his parents would like her. My mom, who'd been trying not to lose it, just snapped. She leaped up, grabbed her glass of Sprite, and threw it right in Harry's face, screaming at him about what a lowlife he was. Georgina looked totally freaked out, and Harry was just stunned. Then Evelyn just lost it, yelling that his act was over and everyone knew he was cheating with this woman. So I kept talking, spilling everything I'd found out about Georgina, even that she was wanted for stealing cars in another state. Honestly, watching the blood drain from his face, seeing the pure terror in his eyes, that was incredibly satisfying. That's when it hit me. This was my chance. I reached into my coat, got the divorce papers, and walked right over to him across the table. I handed them over, feeling so triumphant, and told him I was done. Since he'd admitted to cheating in front of everyone, I was coming for everything. My mom and I left as we watched his parents and Evelyn start tearing into him. I was so over him and his whole mess, I wasn't sticking around for any of it. On the drive home, my mom kept telling me how proud she was that she raised such a strong woman. I have no idea what Evelyn and her folks said to Harry, but it must have been bad because he wouldn't stop calling and texting, just wanting to talk. This morning, I woke up to almost 80 texts from Harry, begging me to come back, promising he'd change. He even said he'd go to couples therapy, that if I really loved him, I wouldn't just give up so fast. Normally, I wouldn't even bat an eye, but last year, if you'd asked me if I'd ever divorce Harry, I would have said absolutely not. But things have changed, and I'm sure I'm doing the right thing now. It's crazy because my brain knows what I should do, but my heart still aches for him. Especially after reading these awful letters where he's basically saying he can't live without me and that he always dreamed of growing old with me. I can't trust my feelings, though, so I asked Reddit. Am I the jerk for spilling my husband's secrets to his family and divorcing him? Update 1. Wow, I didn't expect so much backlash when I put this out there. I've gotten tons of messages ripping into me for even thinking about forgiving this guy. I get it, all right? You all can relax. I'm not going back to Harry, and I really need you all to chill out with the negativity now. I'll admit, when I first posted, I was in a vulnerable place and maybe overreacted. But that guilt is gone, and I'm not letting his pathetic words mess with me anymore. Oh, and for those suggesting I just block him, I can't. My lawyer said I have to keep all communication open until the divorce is final. A lot of you also pointed out how Harry is still lying and that he definitely had something going on with this girl, Georgina, or someone else, way before, which is why he was so controlling and possessive. I totally agree with that, but I don't care to dig into the truth. Whether it's true or not, I just want this whole thing to be done with. It's been a while since I've given an update, but I wanted to let everyone know I got tested for STDs and I'm all clear. Thank goodness for that, at least. This whole divorce thing is a nightmare. Harry's lawyer keeps stalling, finding any reason to drag it out. It's infuriating, but my lawyer and I are sticking it out. His lawyer doesn't want me to go after Harry for anything, but seriously. I paid for every single house renovation during our 3 years of marriage. I even fixed up his basement so he could have his stupid man cave. I paid off half his car loan, and I was the one buying groceries week after week. It's just not fair. Evelyn and Harry's parents have actually stayed in touch with me, which has been nice. I saw Evelyn last month, and she's engaged. She's getting married soon and wants me to be there. Part of me doesn't want to go because I really don't want to see Harry, but she really wants me there for her big day, so I'm torn. Evelyn also told me that Harry and Georgina split up. After that whole mess on my birthday, Georgina told him she'd been seeing a bunch of other guys, so there was no way of knowing if the baby was even his. She took off with some other guy who knows where, probably scared we'd call the cops on her. Harry's been a wreck ever since and, of course, blames me for everything. Luckily, his parents set him straight and told him it was all his own fault. Honestly, I'm over his feelings and the whole breakup thing, and I'm really hoping to share some better news next time. I'm planning on talking to Harry's folks, and I'm crossing my fingers they can help me figure out how to convince him to just divorce me like ASAP so I can be done with this whole thing. Okay, guys, I did it. I'm officially divorced. I seriously can't believe I'm actually free. Harry and his lawyer did everything they could to drag this thing out, but the court finally had enough. Eventually, Harry agreed to give me everything I wanted. Turns out, Harry's parents had another chat with him and told him they'd cut him off from their money if he didn't finally divorce me and just stop all the bickering that went on for months. I'm so happy tonight. I just want to go out with my friends and have the best night ever. I invited Evelyn too, so we're totally ready to have a blast. I just wanted to thank you all for sticking with me and sending me such sweet DMs through all of this. Thanks for being here with me and seeing how crazy this family stuff is.